Disclaimer: the following video can contain spoilers.
Lost, with no sense of direction, a Universal Dynamics robot named Rozzum 7134, Lupita Nyong'o, accidentally became a mother to a goose runt after she accidentally fell onto his nest. The Wild Robot was a very beautifully animated movie that tells the story of motherhood and finding where you belong, among other themes, in a very interesting way. While it does include a robot alternating its code to essentially become sentient, this movie was very nice and enjoyable to see on the big screen. It had its comedic moments in this very heartwarming and charming story about a goose able to live because of this robot, which at first is viewed as a monster, but later on gains the trust of the animals, being called one of their own. But without further ado, let's begin. The movie opens up on a remote island. As a storm lets loose, a package containing robots is lost. Rozzum 7134 is booted up and sets out to find the one who requested her, or someone to give her a directive/task. Having a language barrier, she collects data on the animals' dialect in order to understand them. Jumping this barrier, she continues her quest to find someone in need of assistance, but it only leads to her being kicked and disregarded. When no one in need of assistance, she tries to return back to factory. However, in the process, her tracking beacon is stolen by a bunch of raccoons, and trying to get it back, she falls down a cliff and onto a goose's nest. Unaware of the hatchling's instinct of calling the first thing it sees when it hatches, its mother, Roz becomes the mother of this gosling. Being given a task by Pinktail, Catherine O'Hara, Roz must now take care of this gosling. This pushes her directive to return to factory aside as she faces new challenges, where she'll find out being a mother is harder than it seems, and these tasks will require time and effort. Thankfully, she has the help of a sly and shifty fox, Fink, Pedro Pascal. Besides the beautiful animation, I would like to note that it was quite interesting to see depictions of death in this movie. Not only does it show a contrast between the message and theme of the movie, but it adds onto the story's weight of the circle of life, the dangers of life, and motherly love.
You need to learn how things work on this island. Me, the bear, everybody, we're all just trying to survive. And kindness is not a survival skill.
When we saw the destruction of the nest after Ross landed on it, all we made it out to be is a nest at the side of a cliff. It wouldn't be until Ross finds eggshells and a dead goose that we really feel this impact. When she lifts up one of the wings to confirm the death of a mother goose, I was shocked. That vivid image was crazy to see. Add the cunning and perseverance of Fink trying to eat the last egg or gosling brought so much nuance to this world. Death is a part of life, and survival is all these creatures are trying to do. Something Ross will have to overcome and help Brightbill, Kit Connor, overcome if he's ever going to make it in life. Unable to go to sleep, Fink tells Brightbill a story. This scene was very great in my opinion, because it captures the essence of the movie as well as Rozzum's character, as she still has a lot to learn. With some humor mixed in, Roz begins to learn and understand what love is. Still confused by it because she's a robot, she carries on the task of eat, swim, and fly by fall. As the days pass by, Roz continues overriding her program in order to complete her tasks. Unfortunately, having Roz as a mother, the other geese mock and ridicule Brightbill. Not only for not being goose enough as he can't swim properly, but for believing Roz to be his mother. Wanting answers, he asks Ross for the truth, but only becomes heartbroken when he hears it. With winter coming, both Ross and Brightbill have to put their resentment and problems aside in order to help him gain endurance so he can get a chance of migrating before winter hits. In short, Brightbill is allowed to migrate with the flock, and during their migration, they rest from a storm for a bit, only to get in a dire situation when similar robots to Ross begins acquiring the task to capture this contamination. Geese in this case. This leads to the death of Longneck, Bill Nye, and the chance for Brightbill to prove his worth. He leads the flock to safety, and come spring, he returns them back to this remote island. I will say that these scenes sparked my interest, yet felt off. Perhaps it was because humans began being involved, only sparking curiosity and confusion because the movie didn't bother going much in depth. As I was watching the scene, I asked, what happened to civilization? The scene where Brightbill was instructed to help these geese because he's not afraid of these robots led me to believe that it was very crucial, but only felt out of place when it technically didn't go anywhere. It just cuts back to this remote island. I would have imagined this scene to include the geese finally accepting Brightbill into their flock, allowing Brightbill to feel like he belongs there. Yes, I understand that it does happen when they return to this island. I just imagine it to happen at the end of this scene, or at least after they migrate. But I guess it is in the movie, so I can't really take issue in it, right? Ross sees that Brightbill is accepted by his kind and feels obligated to return back to her kind, to be accepted by her own kind, and have both parties be where they belong. However, Brightbill wanted to apologize and say thank you before she left, creating conflict with Mantra, Stephanie Sue. Apologies if I butchered that. Another robot tasked to retrieve Rozzum 7134. In short, Ross is captured, then rescued by Brightbill. And during this scene, we finally get an accurate POV flashback, which is a tiny detail that I truly appreciate the movie doing. And Paddler's, Matt Berry's, fascination with chopping the biggest tree becomes useful when the animals have to put out a forest fire. The animals accept Ross as one of their own, but because the humans will consistently send more robots until they retrieve Rozzum 7134, Ross gives herself up on her own accord in order to protect the wildlife, taking it upon herself a new task. That task of returning home. And a Rozzum always completes its task. As the credits rolled, I sat there, mesmerized. What a fantastic movie. There are two scenes I think did a fantastic job of not only bringing forth the message, but captivating the scope of the movie very well. That being the storytelling scene and the winner scene. For the storytelling scene, we still see that Ross is incapable of seeing what she needs to learn. She still feels like her task is only just a task. Stemming from crushing obligation, she would soon grow compassion and learn to love, to perform things without needing it to be assigned to her, and to do it out of love, despite her programming. Much like what Pinktail tells her.
But she still heard him because she was listening with a different part of herself. A part that up to that point she didn't even know she had. Her heart.
As for the winter scene, despite all the hatred and resentment she received from the wild animals, she rescued them through the harsh winter. Before she powered off, she said that instinct tells them what to do in order to survive. But sometimes, they have to do more than what they're programmed to do. It's a scene that encapsulates various themes in this movie, which I feel was done spectacularly.
She risked everything to bring you here.
I know you all have instincts that keep you alive. But sometimes, to survive, we must become more than we were programmed to be.
With that said, The Wild Robot was a very heartwarming movie that depicts motherhood among various other themes pretty nicely. One major detail I liked was how Ross's voice sounded more robotic in the beginning of the movie, and towards the end, it sounded more human. I thought it establishes her growth very well, going from a task-objective mentality to one that comes from the heart. Executed well with this setup and payoff. The setup of Ross being able to hear Brightbill using a different part of her heart, that was set up in the storytelling scene and paid off in Act 3. Lastly, the music. Man, the music was so good that I feel it brought everything together very nicely. Because of the music, you feel every impact, you feel every emotion, and you feel every beat. You're there with them. Overall, The Wild Robot was a very heartwarming story with beautiful animation and music that encompassed a mother's true love and the lengths they'll go for the safety of her child. But having more themes in this movie, I also enjoyed that it wasn't convoluted and you were able to follow along this simple story. There was also a comedic side to it, so it can be enjoyed on all fronts. But the thing that I appreciate most in this movie is the form of storytelling it provided. I felt that it was executed very well, not only in its structure, writing, but in its storytelling.
But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Did you enjoy the movie? Let me know what you thought about it down below, and I'll see you in the next review. Until then, God bless.